Yo, 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 welcome to Crate 808, and today we're diving into another classic 90s 3-album run, and we've got a very special guest for this one. We've got Dead End Hip Hop's very own Beezy in the house. How are you doing, my man?
Man, I am doing great. Thank you. Thank you for calling me specifically to do this conversation with you because, you know, last time we had our 3-album run talk with the crew, the Dead End crew, we was... You know, you saw me, I was glaring about the Roots, man. Like the Roots, I still consider them to have like one of the best, if not the best, discographies in hip hop. Like when you talk about just a complete, from the debut album to their latest, like I feel like they have the best consistent body of work. So yeah, man, I'm ready to talk about Roots. And Black Thought is like probably like my top 2, top 3 favorite MCs of all time. So it's like,
jeez,
what better way? What better way?
Absolutely. I knew that love was pouring when we were talking about the Roots, and I was like, right, I want to go into this run anyway. And let's just tell the listeners, the run is going to be 1995's Do You Want More, Illadelph Halflife 96, Things Fall Apart 99. I mean, it's going to be hard to pick any holes in this.
Yeah.
But before we do jump in, Beezy, I've got to ask you, I ask everyone who comes on, man. What's the least hip-hop thing you've done in the last 24 hours?
The least hip-hop thing I've done in 24 hours? That is hilarious. The least hip-hop thing I've done in 24 hours. Okay, so my neighbor across the street has some kids, and I found out they're some big Star Wars fans.
Right.
So, like, literally, it was the day before yesterday. The day before yesterday, I was having a lightsaber fight with 2 of the kids. Like I was, and I have a lightsaber in my closet. I have a blue lightsaber in my closet, and I was having, and they was Sith Lords, and I was Jedis, and we were having a fight in the front lawn. For yesterday.
Yo, quick reminder, if you're enjoying the show, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button so you'll be kept up to date with all that we're doing, and also, man, get involved in the YouTube comments. Man, we love hearing from you fellow hip-hop heads. We love nerding out, so bring those takes and just bring that flavour, man, and we might even shout you out on the show. So yes, appreciate all the support. Now back to the episode. What a beautiful picture that is. I'm so glad. That's heartwarming, my man. That is heartwarming.
That was the least hip hop thing I done, and I was proud of that moment too. I was proud of that. So, I had fun.
I'm proud of you, man. I'm proud of you for doing that.
Yeah.
It would have been a little bit more hip hop if you'd gone purple, because isn't that Mace Windu? Is that Samuel L. Jackson?
Yes.
He's got the purple. Yes. Yeah, but
it's funny because when I ordered my lightsaber, and at the time I didn't even think I don't know why I didn't think to get a purple one, because I have an artist that drew me as a Jedi, and I had the purple lightsaber. So it's on my Instagram page, and like every time when we celebrate May 4th, you know, May the 4th be with you, I always post that picture because he's a dope illustrator. So
that's incredible.
Man, like, I'm a Star Wars fan. I'm a Star Wars guy, but but let me be honest. I'm gonna be honest. I'm a late Star Wars guy. Like, I'm not like, I started watching them in order. Like I started with Phantom Menace, then, you know, Attack of the Clones, you know, Revenge of the Sith. Then I went back and watched A New Hope, Empire Strike Back. So like, I'm a newbie Star Wars fan, but I definitely enjoyed it. I enjoy Star Wars.
I know this isn't about Star Wars, and we're supposed to do in the Roots, but quickly, what is your favorite one of all of them? If you say one,
even though I didn't watch this at the time when it came out when I was a kid, but the impact of it, I would still say Empire Strike Back is my favorite.
Okay, we're going to get on, Beezy. Roots is one thing, Empire Strikes Back is another. We're in.
Yeah. But like I said, I wish I was a kid when I watched it, because I definitely see why everyone was like, they lost their shit when that happened. And you know what scene I'm talking about.
I do.
So, but still, even though I'm watching it, I'm like, holy shit. I'm like, do Luke even know? Luke don't even like, so watching it not as a grown person, it was like, okay, I see why people was so heartstrung on that scene. But Empire Strike Back was like,
okay.
That's my favorite one.
I'm loving that. If we ever do a Star Wars thing, Bang. First man on the phone. There we go.
You got to bring Mike Seatown on too.
Yes.
Because Mike Seatown was watching those in the 80s. So like he grew up with the first trilogy of Star Wars, where I didn't. So
okay.
But me and him are still big fans of the show though.
I love that. I love that, man. The love is real. And if we are diving into the love then, right? These albums, I'm sure they formed, Your Life formed a lot of our listeners. The roots are so enormous, I don't even know where to start. So I thought, you know what, let's just go with why these three? What was it about this run that kind of makes it special for you?
Oh man, I think with this run that made it so special, granted, shout out to Organic. Organic is still a dope. I remember having my cassette headset before our basketball game, and I was listening to a friend of mine's had the Roots. It was a black case. I'm like, what is this? And all I heard was Pass the Popcorn by Black Thought. And I was like, oh my goodness, who is these guys?
Yo. Us here at the Crate 808 podcast have kicked off our Patreon. So if you don't know what Patreon is, it's a platform where you can go and for a small donation, you can help support us make more hip hop content for you. Go on to patreon.com/Crate808 and you can check out all the little payment options you've got there. You can check out the 2 new episodes you'll be getting every month, live chats with us guys, just to rap nerd out with you guys. We're going to go into some wide-ranging episodes, delving into the work of the Wu-Tang Clan, MF Doom, and J Dilla. So get it locked if you want that new granular look at hip-hop. So go to our payment tiers on Patreon, big up yourselves. If you choose to support us, thank you so much. I will give you a personalised shout out on the show, and we shall catch you in one of these live rooms and let's get this community going. So spread the word. Much love for your time and peace out. Boom.
So I really think starting with Do You Want More, I feel like we really started sonically hearing the sound of the Roots. I feel like Black Thought and Malik B were really honing in to their own, and with the start of that album, with the start of Do You Want More, Malik B, because at that time, to me, Malik B and Black Thought were really like neck and neck. Like, how you got some crews where you can see like, okay, one MC is, you can tell it's a difference in skill set. But Do You Want More? It was definitely dope to hear Malik B and Black Thought really just being like, oh my God, who had a better verse on that? Oh no, and then you had Dice Raw,
yes.
on there. So it was, man, like Do You Want More? I think it was the start of, okay, here come the Roots. Like they're really coming. Like the first album, Organic, was raw, but you're really starting to hearing the more polished the Roots sound starting with that album. So that's why that one I think is so special. In your like life, when the Roots were like, doing their thing, was there even much hype around them after Organic? No, it wasn't. It wasn't, because that was so independent and so like underground. It wasn't so much hype around them because you got to think at this time, Tribe was still killing it. Yes, De La Soul was still killing it. You had Diggable Planets that was coming on the scene. Another group that was kind of like infusion jazz into hip hop. So. Yeah, I think they were still under the radar then because you just had those big groups hitting their airwaves. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. They had that jazz element into their sound. So I think that's why Organic was still kind of like swept up under the rug because of the year. Souls of Mystery. Like it was just so much still kind of hitting, killing the scene at the time. So I think 95 with Do You Want More, it was kind of like, oh, okay, these guys are here to make a point. Oh, absolutely. And I think the interesting thing is I came late to this one. I went backwards, basically. It was more Illadelph. That was my first like bang. Okay. But I remember the first time I heard this, I was like, oh, they just seem so like being a bit of a naive. I was like, they seem so loose and like kind of not disciplined. They seem like they're just doing whatever they want. Until you keep listening and you're like, oh no, actually that's just real discipline, but they know when to jam out on this album. And I think there's more of that in this, but as you go, you can see how it evolves by the time it gets to the third album we're going to talk about today, where you're like, I would never have thought you guys can make it so concrete, so strict, like the way you're honing in on certain bits of that song and going into songs, man. I mean, for you on Do You Want More, what are the moments for you where you will just be like, that's the track I'm going to play now? Like, when you find that album, if you dig it out and you feel like you're playing a few tracks, which ones are you going for? Swept Away. Swept Away was definitely one. Because like I said, this was around the time where like really jazz was really being involved in the hip hop as far as just really having live instrumentation on your album. So I think Swept Away was definitely the one where I was like, Black Thought and Malik B, man, the way they just trained. Malik B started off, the rhythm just sways like the sorcerers, I slays, foes and rivals who want to come this way. Like, yeah, man, Malik B was just
he was
killing it, man. Like and then like I said, Black Thought. Well, you say, yo, hello everybody. Do I introduce the mic mercenary unclear to your ear, the exquisite pattern that you hear? Like, yeah. Swept Away was definitely one, man. That was definitely one where I was like, oh my God, like this shit is nuts.
And at that time, I couldn't have, because it is easy to look back and think like, oh, well, Thought was fully formed genius at that time. Malik B is going to RIP, man. He's one of them unheralded MCs where he's going toe for toe.
Yes.
He's not copying, he's bringing different flavors.
Yes.
And it makes you want to go back and you think, with someone like Malik B, I don't know if I listened back to Unpredictable, his like, I think it's like 2015, but he was with Professor Green. He did like a project with Professor Green.
He did, with Mr. Green. Mr. Green, Professor Green, I think it was.
One of the two, yeah. I remember that kind of not listening to it and being like, it's fine. Oh my God, when I go back, that is such worth a revisit, and you forget, do you know what? He was bringing it on everything he was involved in. These 3 albums, he's on them. And you're like, man, and one of my, like, I know we call them hidden gems, but I don't think this is a hidden gem because it had a music video and everyone knew about it. But one of my most rewindable moments on this whole thing is Distortion to Static. Like, that cut, Beezy, man. Talk to me. What do you feel about that cut?
Woo, man. Distortion to Static, man. Like, yo, I'm every MC. It's like, man, Black Thought, man. That was definitely a moment in my mind that Black Thought, that was so ill how they, of course, the title of the track, how they would distort their voices throughout the verses, like, kind of like throughout certain things that Black Thought would say. Yeah, it would get distorted and it'll come back to the regular vocal. Like, I thought that shit was so crazy. Yeah. Just the live, like it was that was one of the joints where I feel like if I was in that live studio right now and you can hear Questlove just going crazy on the drums, like the drums, them cymbal crashes, like everything, man, with the vocals, with the vocal sample, like
the laugh. Yeah, my God, yeah. We were talking about best laughs in hip hop and like best laughs in hip hop songs, and my first two are always Lauren on Fuji La. When she's like ripping it, like, haha, you shouldn't diss refugees. And and I was like, the second is Roots on that hook because it's so infectious. Yes. You're doing it, you're humming it, you're doing it. And it's one of the things what I love about the Roots, right? They can be really complicated because they're a live band. They've got an incredible amount of members, but they can also just distill shit to like a brilliant moment or a brilliant part of a song. And you're like, like they can do both and they're so good at that. And
they're so good. Yep. I agree.
What was it for you with Roots? Like, what did they bring? I know Thought was bringing elite lyricism. As a group, in your listening, I'm guessing you're listening to West, South, East. What was it Roots that were bringing a bit different for you? How do they stand out for you?
I think with the Roots, I feel like, with them being a live band, they definitely brought like a more natural element, if that makes like a more natural feel to hip hop. I feel like that at the time was kind of missing, because, during the early to mid 90s, you had West Coast stuff that was really, killing it, booming it with Dre and them out there, Ice Cube. You had the emergence of the East Coast coming back with Biggie and the Wu-Tang, and Black Moon. So like, they all had their different feels, but I feel like the Roots coming from Philly, I feel like they brought definitely a different natural free-flowing vibe to hip-hop, like listening to these albums, you know what I'm saying? And I'm not really saying none of these other artists wasn't bringing that, but I just feel like they just brought like just such a natural, like, oh shit, this is a great element that I think that's really missing in hip-hop right now. Yes. I'm glad that they're bringing to, you know what I'm saying? So yeah, I really feel like that's what the Roots, that's why they was such a breath of fresh air at that time when they were coming up. Like, it was amazing, man. It was definitely amazing. kudos to everyone who lived through it like I did. But if you missed out, man, you definitely missed out on a small era, you know, in that natural hip hop feeling that was happening at the time.
I love how you use the word natural there, bro, because when I think about it and I think about what they actually, where they stand now as a legacy and stuff like that, but even back then I was like, you know, the thing about them is I'd put on their album and it was a completely, it's like one group. I know it wasn't just them. There was other groups. Right. They've got a lot of Tribe. They've got a lot of Dilla. And they went on with Soulquarians. There's a lot of elements to them. But I'm going to go on to that about Roots and being like a bit of a collective and a community, which I love. But more about it, I was like, this is a whole new dimension to hip hop for me, where I'm listening. Nothing else is delivering this dimension of free flowing live. You could tell it was live. And that it just sort of showed hip hop is evolving before my very eyes, because people are not just sticking to lanes; they're making their own lanes. As in, they are not, and we're not going to do just this. And they're influenced, but they're not like they paved their own path, man. They didn't just follow, you know, people. And I think that's the thing to me that was like, yeah, like no one else is doing this. And then you think about the closed-mindedness that you must have had, like, you know, where they're a band and they're touring, and people must have been like, what are you again? Are you a hip hop group band? I don't understand. Like, you know, like they must have encountered quite a lot of people who are a bit like ignorant to live music instrumentation. It's not gangster. It's not boom bap. What is this? You know? So
right. You couldn't put no style to it. You couldn't say like what type of style this was at the time. So yeah, like I said, at that time you had, you know, Southern boom stuff. You had, you know, like not really trap music, but like bass Southern music. You had the West Coast G-Funk. Yes. You know, and then you have boom bap in New York. So like with DJ Premier and Pete Rock. So like with the Roots, it was like you don't even know what style to call this. It was just like I said, it was a natural, free flowing type of vibe that definitely was needed in hip hop.
Yeah, and I was listening to just a few interviews with Questlove because he's such a fascinating bloke just to listen to.
He really is.
And it's like you can listen to it for hours. And he said something really interesting because they were talking about how, like, when this album came out, it wasn't even a hip hop label. I think it's a Geffen, I think it's a DGC. So it's like grunge. It's actually punk rock grunge label. And they just dipped their toes into live hip hop. And Questlove, there's a really interesting quote. He says, like, everyone looked at it as a bit like a gimmick. And they were like, oh, you know, all you guys do is like you're playing live music and you're making it jazzy and all this. And he said the interesting thing is when he'd hear someone like Grandmaster Flash was like, because I'm constrained, I can't afford instruments. I can't play music loud because I'm in a flat and like in a council flat and people are going to get fucked off and all this shit. If I could have, I would have played drums like Questlove. But because I couldn't, I had my decks. And Questlove was like, it's weird that people think it's a gimmick, but it's just because hip hop was so constrained, it naturally evolves, and we're just part of it. It's not a gimmick; it's hip hop. And I found that so fascinating that people thought like that, because I don't think they do anymore because of people like the Roots, you know. So yeah.
I mean, you're right. I don't think people even have that thought process anymore because, you know, the Roots came in and changed the game so much, man. Like. They definitely laid a blueprint down, you know, coming when they first hit the scene.
Yeah.
Damn.
Mad, isn't it? Right. It's mad when you think like that. I was going to say to you then, I was just digging into some notes and like I was having a look. Do you remember, right, that there was a rumored supergroup with the Roots? So, but it wasn't just the Roots. It was Thoughts, Common, Pharoah Monch and Absolute. Do you remember this being a thing? I didn't remember this. I read it and I was like, what was that actual thing, like a supergroup? But I can't even imagine how ridiculous that would have been.
I don't remember hearing that, but I do remember hearing like during I don't know if you're familiar with Lyricist Lounge. Like when they used to have Lyricist Lounge.
Yes.
You know, Black Thought, Pharoah Monch and Common, they used to roll a lot together and doing those freestyles, doing those ciphers, you know, going on Stretch and Barbito a lot. So, you know, I didn't hear about them forming a group, but it was a point where they were always together a lot. You know what I'm saying? Whether if it was just on some regular, I'm at the studio recording, come through, or if it just they're gonna do a track or freestyle together or cipher together. Right. So there could be some truth to that. But I never heard about it. But they did used to roll around. They used to be together a lot, man. Them three. So I would not be surprised if that was true. If that was really true.
Just imagine
that happened. Yeah.
Just imagine. That'd be insane.
You talk about another lyrical god in Pharoah Monch. Oh man, that's man.
And do you know what? It's a bit odd when I listen back to these, and they're so suited to Pharaoh. Like these albums, especially Illadelph, he could have landed on these, and it's weird that even the last one we didn't talk about, Things Fall Apart, he would have been perfect. His singing, his voice, but what woulda, shoulda, couldas, and the ifs and buts are just too much. But were there any moments on this album then that you would say are either hidden gems, so like maybe cuts where you think that deserves a bit more love? Is there anything on here?
On which one? On Do You Want More?
Yeah, on Do You Want More? Yeah.
I would say the Lesson Part 1.
Oh man,
I would say Lesson Part 1 doesn't get talked about enough.
That is so strange. That production on that is just weird.
Yeah, I feel with the beatboxing, like man, with that, and then just Black Thought, Mally B, and Dice Raw, just man, like again, killing it. So yeah, I would say that track doesn't get talked about enough, in my opinion.
Yes, and the thing about the Lesson Part 1 is one of them things where you think when they do just have beatboxing and then they do just put it with live instrumentation. I was listening to it thinking this is like evolution in one track. Like you've gone from the 80s where people are just beatboxing, and now you've added all this instrumentation and production on it. It's like time travel in a track. It's I would say to people, definitely go rewind that one. That's definitely up there for me. But
Rosdell on the beatboxing, man, like that. He was killing that shit, man. Like that is he beatbox so well. Sometimes he sounds like an instrument. So yeah, that was so dope, man. Like I said, Black and Dice Raw. That to me, that was like the Dice Raw coming out party for me. Like if you didn't really, he was on organic, but like he really homed in when his features on Do You Want More. So like if you didn't know Dice Raw, you definitely was gonna know him after the Lesson Part 1.
And do you know what? They're all hardcore. As in, like, well, they're not like grave diggers, but they're like. This is the thing, right? You can say about them, they're jazz DNA, they're jazz hip hop. Yeah. Roots can switch it and do Mobb Deep if they want to do Mobb Deep. And the three lyricists really help. Well, more than three. There's all the lyricists who turn up. Really, really hone in on that. All of them can be grimy as fuck. And I'm like, what? I love that. I love how they can get like that.
Let's not forget they from Philly. You know what I'm saying? Philly is especially during the 80s and 90s. Yeah, you certain parts of Philly you had to hold your own. So they can definitely go grimy. I mean, Beanie Siegel's from Philly. Him and Black Thought came up around the same way. So that's let's not forget that. They can definitely, like you said, go grimy. They can go mile deep on you if you want.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. We had Thought on the pod and we were like talking and he was like, you realize he's actually really street. He is street, but he's just had a career where he's evolved from it, but it hasn't changed him. Like when you talk to him, he still has that kind of thinking as well. You're like, damn, man, it's crazy. And there was one hidden gem that I was going to talk about, which is the title track, Do You Want More? Because that cut, bro, that first 20 seconds, build it up, bang. I think that's one of the tracks that changed the way I walk. When you're walking down the street, you're like, oh shit. And then you're like, oh fuck. And then when Thought comes in, it's just like all over. And when I listen to it now, I have a feeling that might be bagpipes he's rapping over. Like, it sounds like bagpipes. I was like, what is this he's rapping? It's, again, experimental. Like, it has a shouty chorus, and I love a shouty chorus, like Onyx, everyone was it. But it's a weird production to go with it, and they were just so unique, man. I love that cut. Love it. Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, we talk about how, like these guys are really street, because even some of Black Thought lyrics, even on that song in particular where he say, well, I'm a fly Philly nigga, finger on the trigger, MCs repent from sins, God coming again. Like, yes. Like Black Thought can get grimy if he wants to. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Malik B can get grimy if he wants to.
Absolutely.
These cats are from they're from Philly, so let's not forget that.
Mate, Beezy, this is how grimy they are, yeah. Because I was listening to a few interviews, and Thought was talking, and he was like, "Oh yeah, I remember when silent treatment on this album, like that's Thought singing. He's got grimy and he can sing." And apparently that was like Biggie's track. So Biggie would come and go, oh, Silent Treatment is my cut. I love Silent Treatment. And he would sing Silent Treatment in front of Thought. And you're like, wait, so Biggie loved Thought on Silent Treatment. And then you start thinking of Player Hater, you know, these.
On Life After Death.
Yes.
On Life After Death. Yes.
Yeah. And you're like, maybe, I don't know, maybe Biggie was influenced by a lot of different things, definitely Delphonics, but it's like, damn,
you
like.
dropped a dope gem. I never thought about that. You dropped a dope gem.
But that's Thought though, bro. Thought has got history. You got to like, you know, I know Justin Hunt did a brilliant video on Thought, and it was like, you know, should he be a top 5 MC? And his argument was amazing. And you're like, yeah, actually, and including what I'd forgotten, he does impressions of G-Rap and Kane on
Boom, on the Tipping Point. It was off the Tipping Point album. Boom.
Yes.
I remember when I first listened to that album, I was like, oh snap. I'm like, Black Thought, Kane and G-Rap on here? And then I was looking at the credits, I'm like, how come I don't see G-Rap and Kane on here?
Oh,
I'm like, what's going on? And then I listened to it again. I was like, oh my God, like that's Black Thought. And he also, speaking of that, he did a track during the recording of Do You Want More that didn't make the final album, where Black Thought was literally imitating like 7 or 8 different MCs, from Guru to Old Dirty Bastard. I gotta find this track. It's called In Your Dreams, kid. That's what it's called. In Your Dreams, I'm Every MC. That's what it's called.
Right.
So when you get a chance, it's on YouTube.
Yeah.
He recorded it during when they was making that album, Do You Want More? It's like 6 minutes long. Black Thought is literally rhyming like about 7 different MCs. I'm telling you, you have to listen to it. So, like, listening to that, I understand Boom off the Tipping Point a lot more now. Like, I'm like, Black Thought is just that ill. He can make his voice and his rap patterns. I mean, he rapped just like G-Rap and Kane. I was going crazy.
Unreal. This is what I'm talking about. Top level, elite. Like, Questlove is an elite drum. This band are elite. They took time to get there, but they are now one of the best bands in the world, I would say. Yeah. And it's like Scott Storch, man. Big up Scott Storch is in there as well.
Earlier Scott Storch is before he started rolling with Dr. Dre and stuff and Fat Joe and all. Yeah.
Just jamming out. But like, you know what you're saying there about Black Thought and like how amazingly talented he is, right? What I love about the Roots, they never put him or Questlove on a pedestal above everyone else. For me, one of the best things about the Roots is the range they have, the amount of different people that come into their crew. Rahzel, they all get a moment to shine. They all have this like collaboration where they lift one another up. And with that kind of community, it just feels more hip hop. It feels more like, you know, Native Tongues. It feels more like, you know, no one is bigger than the movement kind of situation. Right. And I'm sure as we'll go on, Questlove has talked about times where they almost split up and stuff. But like, I do think that we shouldn't sleep on that. Like, you know, it's hard to do that over. And you say they've got one of the best discographies. Man, they've been going for 30 years or something. It's crazy.
Yeah, man.
Crazy.
Yeah, like I was in junior high school when the Roots first came out. So yeah, it's just like it just puts you in the mind like, yo, man, these guys been holding it, they've been putting it down for years. Every time when I go and did hip hop and talk about it, I'm like, look, y'all don't understand. These guys has been this consistent since ¡93. Like insane. You know what I'm saying?
More consistent than the Woo, more consistent than a lot of super groups.
A lot of other groups out there, man. It's crazy.
Absolutely. And to manage that with that many people, man. So when you go to 96, year later, Illadelph Halflife. I know. For you, Beezy, what is it? One, how did you experience that album as a kid? And 2, how do you think they changed between the two for you?
So the first thing I noticed right away was the production style with this album opposed to their first 2 albums. This album used a lot more programmed drumming, you know, more so than live drumming. You know, like with Do You Want More and Organic. With this one, you hear a lot of programming drumming, which I'm probably assuming they was using maybe some like maybe an SP or MP or something to program their drums. So a lot of the songs, you know, it sounded like they were literally just in the studio working on it instead of like just being in a live band or whatever. So that was one thing I noticed, probably with the exception of what they do sounded like that was alive.
Yes.
That was alive. You know, they still have some live elements of the Roots that we knew, you know, with the first 2 albums. But like I said, it was definitely a lot more programmed drumming, like Clones. Clones is definitely one where I'm like, holy shit. Like even with the first joint, Respond React, like, you know,
bro,
it's, you know, we what's that? We setting up from South Side, pushing up north from Philadelphia reps, like, and then Black Thought come on, like, yeah, the attractive assassin, blasting the devil trespassing, master getting cash in the orderly fashion. I'm like, oh my god, like, yeah, Black Thought, yeah, Illadelph Halflife was nuts. But I feel like at that time when this album came out, I was like, okay, yeah, Black Thought is like, he's like right there in my top 5 at that time. Like he was itching, right? Yeah, he was itching. He was like he was probably like number 7 or 6, like when Illadelph Halflife came out. I was like, yo, man, like this Black Thought dude is freaking amazing. But I definitely noticed that this album had a lot of variety. I feel like this was their first album where they kind of, you know, like I said, gave you a different type of production. You know, you had tracks where you hear what's my man name? Rozelle doing bebop going against folks and stuff with you know, going against Dave. Then you had a Q-Tip, you had Raphael Sadiq, you had Common, you had D'Angelo, you know what I'm saying? You even had a poet, Ursula Rucker. I think that's her. You had that. You had the jazzy instrumental in One Shine.
Damn.
Like
that One Shine.
This joint had some crazy joints. No Great Pretender, that was Malik's Beast.
Yes.
That was his stage. He had his joint by himself.
Yes.
Like, yeah, this Bahamadia came out and killed it with Push Up Your Lighter. Like,
yeah,
this album, you really started to hear like their music and commercials a little bit more. You started, you know, they kind of was starting to kind of be, because like I said, Do You Want More was like, okay, the Roots are here. But Illadelph Halflife was like, okay, yeah, now we're getting these guys. We see what they're about. Like people are really starting to like pay attention to the Roots.
Yeah.
Illadelph Halflife came out. Like perfect album for me. To me, perfect album. Like this, when you talk about a perfect album, I feel like I'm telling you, that album came out in 96. I at least play this album at least twice a month.
Oof.
At some point, I'm gonna play this album. Like it not a month go past that I don't play this album. Like this album is special for me.
That is real love. That is real love right there. Yeah. And I love how it did completely become a different thing. Again, this is the one that got me in. And you could say it's more straighter, harder hip hop rather than your jazzier. But as you say, that's on the surface. Like if you were to really go in, all elements are present. It's just from the cover, like the album cover. I remember a lot of things in 96 were brown in hip hop. Like there's brown or fatigues or black. And it was like perfect 96 look. That's a perfect 96 look. And what I found interesting was what they were going through as a group. Because I think that's when Questlove was saying he was, I don't know it might have been the press, it might have been critics, but he was made to feel like he was a bit of the bad guy, he was saying. Because he said like critics would say like his drumming was like it fluctuated too much and shit. And he was like, right, if that's what these guys are really saying, he said, I went in. He did 10,000. He did an extra 10,000 hours just on his drumming, and he was just working on it and just learning everything about engineering. This is what he was saying. I think he wrote a book about it, and he was. I think it's quite interesting when you're still pushing yourself, and you could have just chilled or whatever. But he did say he almost split them up as well. I think they almost split up as well. So it's like, wow, like the group was going through a lot of shit. It's like when you hear about Farside making Lab Cab and none of them were getting on, and you're like, damn, you forget, it's hard to make pieces of art when you're like that. And I just think it was a bit of a watershed moment for them. I think people did really start thinking, actually, these guys are for real. Do you know what I mean? A little bit more.
Damn. Yeah, I didn't know Quest was feeling that way he was feeling with that album and during that time when it came out. Because at that time, I'm like, okay, this is their third album. They are really, this group is, they, like I said, Black Thought was creeping up in my all-time MC list. And like the Roots to me was like, they were definitely stamping themselves as one of the best groups in hip hop at that time. Like, you mentioned the Gang Stars, the Outkast, Mobb Deep, like Wu-Tang, Quest, Daylight. Like you got to when that album came out, you got to put Roots in that conversation now. To me, That's what Illadelph Halflife did for me. Like, we probably didn't have roots in them group conversations before, but when Illadelph Halflife came out, you had to put them in that conversation. Like, put them in that conversation at that point.
Talk to me about what they do. What did you think about what they do when that dropped?
Man, like, I'm a huge Raphael Sadiq fan. I love Tony. I've seen Raphael Sadiq live. He puts on an amazing show. That's another underrated R&B artist that we need to talk about, but that's for another day.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah, when I heard what they do, I was just like, okay, because like I said, Clones came out. That was like their leading single. So when Clones came out, it was like, ooh, in your face. You hear the drum rolls and stuff, and just Black Thought, Dice Raw, Malik B, just in your face. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, Mars Co-op.
When what they do came out, it was like, oh, okay, so this is what they're doing. Like, they really showing that, like, look, we can still be jazzy and keep that element in there, but we can still be hip hop, like you mentioned earlier. Like, they can still be street, you know what I'm saying? But they can still show that musically they can go wherever you want them to go. And what they do was definitely, especially that breakdown at the end, just the breakdown, musical breakdown at the end of what they do.
Yes.
The cherry on top of the cake, man. Cherry on top of the cake. That is perfect.
It's so true. Because when you hear like when I listen back to it now, I can hear they probably love RZA. Like, it feels a bit more like they like the Woo. And it also feels a bit more like they love Havoc. So it's like they have that, but then their principles are so strong, and this is what I love about as a group. They don't sit by the sidelines and don't say anything. They want to be an active voice in what's happening in hip hop. And that video, bro, when I'd never seen anything, because I didn't even question Bling Bling or like, everything they undercut in one video. And how good is that, right? How many artists do you hear like, I don't know, I can't think of it off the top of my head, but so many classic artists we love, right? Sometimes they only work on wax. Sometimes they only really work just listening to them. What I love about Roots is, man, they go into the videos. Like, they really go for it in the videos. And that's a classic video. Of course, it started beef, right? With Biggie and, thinking, you're talking about us. And I think UGK as well. I think it was UGK or someone like that. It might have been Pimp C. Even he had beef with that. And it's like, they didn't just sit there. They were like, what the fuck is happening to our music? And I kind of felt that as a kid. I was like, wow, yeah, absolutely, yeah. So, yeah. And that video, if no one's watched it again, it is still fucking hilarious. It's really good. It's really good.
Man, back to me, I feel like too, and I mean, I hate to sound like an old geezer, but yeah, I feel like definitely in the 90s, I feel like artists took more time of like giving you a great visual artwork for the videos. Like the videos, you hear a song and you be like, oh man, it's dope. But when they make a video, I feel like back then artists kind of used to take their time in making a video that kind of matches the song, if that makes sense. Because sometimes, you see cats make videos now and it's like, okay, you talking about this, but then this video is like completely opposite or completely 180 from what you're talking about. It don't match the vibe of the song. So I feel like in the 90s, sometimes I feel like for the most part, a lot of videos kind of gave you the match for the vibe of the song. You know what I'm saying? So Roots, they definitely did a good job of going above and beyond with their videos at the time. Sometimes it was simple, but yet creative sometimes,
Yeah, absolutely. And we have a category, which is like 5 mic moments, which is like a moment of perfection, like in hip hop. And I know this album got 4.5 in the source, where you're like, absolutely, like you should have been 5.
You got 5. This album should have got 5. This album should have got a classic. It should have been stamped.
Yeah,
I'm telling you.
Yeah,
this album was flawless from just the rhyming that Malik B and Dice Raw and Black Thought was doing to the features like Common, Bahamadia, Q. Like, you talk about all types of elements wrapped up in one of this album. I feel like you had DJing versus scratching. Like, you had all types of elements on this album. To me, it's a no-brainer. This should have been a 5 mic classic. Like,
it's true.
Everything about this.
And let's just go. You said One Shine earlier, and I'm like, that's how good this album is. There's these hidden gems, and I think the Roots have got so many, because their albums are so big. Like, they've got big albums, and they tackle big themes as they go on and on. It's very easy that tracks get lost. So I'm glad you said One Shine, because the horns on there are beautiful, absolutely stunning. I would say that what you just reiterate what you said. I think it's like the first 4 tracks on this album. Unreal. Like, oh my God, that's how you're going to... It was respond, react, section. What cut? Push up your lighter. Panic's another one where
just don't stop. Yeah.
They're talking about stuff like, oh man, it just don't stop. That bit where they have like a high pitched tone comes in on that, and I'm like, oh, these moments, it's just beautiful, man. And they're talking about shit that it's real talk. Like, it's not like it's conscious hip hop, but it doesn't feel heavy. If you know what I mean, it doesn't feel like not lecturing you. You know?
Yeah. No, they're not. They just speaking about real life situations in the urban cities that, you know, is similar to Philadelphia. Like myself, I grew up in Detroit, you know, Chicago, you know, Atlanta, like all these urban cities. I feel like Black Thought, especially on tracks like Episode, like where you say, just push the panic button on your remote control to enter the zone where Patron this wicked realm cold soul. Diddy Bowl leave you feeling like a saga foretold who got caught upon the block for gold. Like, like Black Thought, like it's like, come on, man. Like this guy is speaking on some stuff, man. You know, old folks peeping out closed windows. Like, You know,
it's only just struck me. Maybe it's the way you were spitting that, Beezy, but it's only just struck me. That sounds like Car has heard that, and I know you love Car.
Oh man.
And I'm like, I never thought about the Black Thought Car thing, but the way you just said that, it's like, oh yeah, actually, I can imagine Car definitely learning from Black Thought. Same principles, same things about community, same things about like upholding your people, like making sure like, you know, you put them above things. And then the way he spits, everything. Yeah, man, absolutely. So, man, a Car and Thought track is just, I don't even know how. Thought would work with anyone because he can change for any situation.
Right. I also reference Kai. I think I hear a lot of early Jizza stuff too, like Liquid Swords. I hear a lot of inspiration from Kyle from Liquid Swords. So
that's 100%.
Another MC you can throw out there. Yeah, Jizza.
Yeah,
I definitely hear some Kai influences, you know, from there. You know what I mean? There's influences from Kai. I definitely hear that.
I smell a Car 3-album run episode. I can just smell it right now. I'm sorry,
man. My Jesus Christ, that dude there. That'd be another conversation for another day, right there, man.
But this is what I'm saying. Isn't it beautiful that you can talk about these albums now, then, and then reminding me of things that are current, like albums dropping today. And you know what? Thought they're all still dropping them. Thought still dropping them. Oh man, absolutely. But 99. So it's a few years later. I think they did a lot of touring and stuff like that. But things fall apart, man. Like, what do you think of that album after all this time? Like, how does it stand then when you first heard it, and how do you feel about it now?
Back then when Things Fall Apart came out, because at that time, you know, of course, you had singles, then you had the album artwork. So you're looking at the album artwork, I'm like, okay, are these guys really trying to make a statement here with this music? You know, because, you know, it's like after hearing Illadelph Halflife, I'm like, what can they do? Like, what is about to be next for these cats, man? Like after this, but you know, Things Fall Apart. You know, this was the album they won their first Grammy. They won a Grammy off of You Got Me. You know what I'm saying? Like off the single. You know what I'm saying? So that at that time, I thought that was freaking huge for the Roots, because seeing them come from organic to making this album, you know, I think this was definitely this album was definitely for me personally, was just like, okay, y'all made Illadelph. Let me see what y'all got with this go around. You know what I'm saying? Can y'all still keep this thing going? Can y'all keep this thing moving? And can y'all still like have me amazed by the wordplay and the lyricism going off and going on in this album? And you know, they didn't let me down. They didn't let me down. With Table of Contents even started freaking strong. I mean, I was like, oh, like when it came on, I'm just like, okay, you're now tuning in the R to the below to the
yes.
I'm like, okay. I'm like, all right, Black Thought. Oh, stop. When the beat switched up, you know, the beat switched up, and Malik beat killed it. I'm like, oh, yes. I was like, okay, I'm sorry if I'm doubting y'all. I'm sorry. Then, you know, it went to the Next Movement, which you know about that video and that joint, you know, featuring Jazzy Jeff. Like,
Next Movement. Videos again. They think about
videos again.
Yeah.
Videos. Yeah. You know, Step Into the Realm. They still keeping it like hard and streetcore a little bit. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yes.
And a good thing about this album that I peeped when I looked at the credits when I first got it, I saw it produced by JD.
Yeah.
That was before he was called J Dilla, but when he was called JD, Jaydee. Not to be confused with Jermaine Dupri. So but JD produced Dynamite. Like I was like, holy crap. They were tapped into J Dilla. Like, oh my God. Like I'm as a Detroiter, I was so happy to see JD produce for the Roots. Because he produced for Tribe Called Quest, produced for De La Soul, produced for Janet Jackson. Like, he's produced for the Far Side. So like to see him produce for the Roots, I was like, oh my God, I was happy as hell. I was so happy.
I love that.
Another thing that stood out to me too was this was right after he signed with Rockefeller. I saw Beanie Siegel. We had a Beanie Siegel. I'm like, this is dope. This is cool with Adrenaline. Adrenaline produced by Scott Storch.
Yes.
Adrenaline was definitely dope. It was good to hear Beanie Siegel, Dice Raw and Black Thought on the track together, man. Like that was really good. Like I said, and I remember hearing a rumor about they tried to. Beanie Siegel was almost a part of the Roots. They was going to try to add him as another lead MC, on the Roots. And at that time, he signed with Rockefeller, and the rest was history. But that would have really been interesting if you had someone and we know the type of work that Beanie Siegel made, end up making with Rockefeller. Yeah, like you talk about street, it would have really been interesting hearing Beanie Siegel rap the way he rapped over the production, that we end up hearing from the Roots from this album. Forward, you know what I'm saying? If Beanie Siegel would have became a member, that would really be, man. But yeah, man. And Eve, you had another Philly born artist.
They're
Eve,
putting people on there. Yeah,
You Got Me. You know what I'm saying? With Erykah Badu, also written by Jill Scott. That hook was written by Jill Scott, who was from Philly. Yeah, so I think that was dope. That they definitely brought some Philly homegrown into this album. Like I said, with DJ Jazzy Jeff, with Beanie Siegel and Eve. Yes. And then you had Jill Scott writing the hook. So things fall apart, man. Like, they definitely kept the momentum going from Illadelph Halflife to Things Fall Apart. I still just like Illadelph Halflife, I feel like production, they gave me, some programmed drums as well as live instrumentation. They had a lot of different flavors going on with this album as well as Illadelph Halflife. A lot of people, this is a lot of people's favorite album. A lot of people say this is their favorite album. You say what?
I think as time's gone on, it has become mine. It has.
Yeah, a lot of people say that Things Fall Apart is their favorite album from the Roots, and for me, Illadelph Halflife is still that one. But I don't get mad or I'd be like, oh, you tripping if someone say Things Fall Apart is their favorite Roots album. I mean, because it's definitely a phenomenal album, and they didn't let me down. Like I said, coming off the high, it's really difficult sometimes when artists make an album that's just like you consider their best, and then usually sometimes the next album, you might hear some slippage. No slippage.
Nothing. Yeah, and the weird thing is you can just do the same again, but they don't. The Roots never make the same album ever again. Like when have they gone back in their career to Illadelph? Really?
Never.
They don't. Never. They've done it. They move on, and then they go on and do house or like rock and like stuff like that. Yeah, and that's what I love about this album. 'Cause it's such a leap forward, doing things like you talked there about Adrenaline, right? And Beanie Siegel. For me, that's a 5 mic moment for me. It's a perfect moment where a group fully comes into its own. It's the most I know Questlove was saying that he wasn't even thinking about this album when it come out because he was too busy working with the Soulquarians on for Chocolate, Voodoo, and obviously then working with JD, and then you can see how this all because I think they recorded something similar, like 145 songs, like 145 songs, just jamming with their friends, and then distilling it to like 14 or whatever it is on this album. You're like, that's incredible how you do that. But the fact for me, right, that they now had an identity because they had been influenced by other things. I was saying there about Woo and a bit of Havoc. No one sounded like Things Fall Apart. Nothing sounded like it. And this was their own thing. And they influenced everyone. And that jazzy energy, it was like more solid. It was more grounded. And it wasn't losing anything. There was no genius lost. It was like, they just sounded more solid. It was like, fuck, man. Like these guys can just make classics now. And there's so many, Adrenaline's a classic for me. So yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And and like you said, I think another thing about this album too is yeah, I definitely saw a step back from Questlove and from the production standpoint, because like you said, he was working on Mama's Gun with Erykah Badu.
Yes.
He was working on like you said, like Water for Chocolate with Common,
Mm.
Voodoo with D'Angelo.
Mm.
It's one more album I'm forgetting off the top of my head. But yeah, he was working with them. So he was kind of stepping away. He was just really busy. It wasn't like he was doing that on purpose, but it was just like when the Roots was recording his album. That's why you had JD in there. That's why you had Scott Storch. That's why you had the Grand Wizards in there, like working on production a lot more. You know what I'm saying? So with this album, which is fine, because it just shows you, even if one person is kind of not like in it, they still gonna sound good as a group. They're gonna still sound great as a collective, even though I think we only had Questlove on maybe 2 tracks.
Yes.
For this album. So yeah, it still sounds amazing though. It still sounds, like I said, he was working on some pretty big stuff at that time. Those albums I named wasn't no slouch. It was dope to see the Roots win a Grammy for You Got Me, and it was dope to see them be nominated for Best Hip Hop Album, like that, for Best Rap Album. Like that was dope. He ended up losing to Eminem, Slim Shady, because this album, Things Fall Apart and Slim Shady, came out the same day. I remember vividly. I remember when I went to the music store and my homie was excited about the Eminem Slim Shady album. He brought the Slim Shady album. I was like, look, I'll listen to that later. I'm about to buy this Roots album, because you can buy it. I'm coming off of Illadelph Halflife. So I'm like, yo, I don't care about Eminem right now. I'm getting this Things Fall Apart album. I'll listen to Slim Shady LP when I get to it. But so,
I love that.
Because this was during the time where you still had to buy albums.
Yeah.
You didn't have Spotify. You didn't have Apple Music. You know what I'm saying? So like, I'm like, look, I got $15. Either I'm gonna spend it on Slim Shady or I'm gonna spend it on Things Fall Apart. Yeah, I'm going with Things Fall Apart. You know what I'm saying?
I would say Things Fall Apart has aged better. I know all the Eminem heads are going to come at me now. I know they are, including my own friends. They're all going to. But Things Fall Apart, I listen to that more than Slim Shady. I just do.
I listen to more.
Yeah. Do you know that about Adrenaline?
Things Fall Apart age way better than Slim Shady LP.
Oh, 100%.
Don't get me wrong. Slim Shady LP is an amazing album, but Things Fall Apart age way better than Slim Shady LP.
Do you know why? Because there's some weight to this album. There's actually some weight, as in they're saying stuff that's good. It's unfortunately, a lot of it is still very relevant, but also a lot of it is timeless stuff they're talking about. Slim Shady probably not as much, and that's another thing. It's like their themes they tackle. Think about it this way. Actually, before I go into the themes, I was going to say Adrenaline. We can't skip over the fact that was supposed to be Big Pun on there anyway. And like to have Big Pun on there, and when we had Thought on, I was like, how did Pun not get on? And he got pulled up and put in the cell that night. Like, imagine Big Pun on Adrenaline. I love Beanie, I do, but just imagine Big Pun on there.
My God, because we heard what Black Thought and Big Pun did on Super Lyrical on Capital Punishment album.
Unreal.
So it's like, yo, like
imagine.
That's it. And to be honest with you, I think that's one of the only time where a lot of people feel, because not many people get Black Thought on a track, but a lot of people say that Super Lyrical, that was like, if Black Thought took a defeat, it was to Big Pun. A lot of people feel that way. So that would have been so amazing to hear Big Pun on Adrenaline. Oh,
about JD.
The way that Big Pun rhymed, like in that beat.
Oh
yeah, Big Pun would have demolished that.
Killed it. He'd have killed it. Imagine a to and fro though. That's the thing for me. A to and fro with them two would have just been unbelievable.
It'd have been crazy.
Exactly. And Big Pun wasn't doing heavy stuff as well. Like, this is a bit of a heavier album. Just the artwork alone, everything about it is a little bit heavier than just your crime rap, you know? Who knows, man, if Pun was around and he'd been on here, maybe got influenced, maybe, I don't know, you just don't know, do you? But like, saying the same with Beanie though, right? If he'd have stayed, and who knows what his career would have been. But you know, you that saying there, I was just going to go into themes, like how you're tackling stuff. The intro, bro. I remember hearing that intro, and I liked Mo Better Blues, but I didn't really love Mo Better Blues. But I loved Spike Lee. So as soon as I heard it, I was like, oh yeah, shit, I know, because I love my film, I know this. But I'd never heard it the way they put it in, because I was like, oh my God, yeah, like what they're saying, they're not just, it's so easy in hip hop, especially 99, to ridicule, you know, commercial hip hop, and underground is the best, and underground, you know, and artful rap is the, you know, the way forward. That fucking intro undoes all of that for me, because he's like one side, I can't believe our people don't support jazz and it's our culture. And then once he starts like, well, if you played what the motherfuckers wanted, they'd fucking come. And you're like, that's the dichotomy, man. That's the weird thing with art. And they were so knowing and clever, and they still did it. Like, they got a hit single off here, which is a classic love song. And then they'll still do Adrenaline, 100% Dundee, all this other stuff where you're like, you kind of nailed it, guys. That intro, you've kind of nailed it. And yeah, I love how knowing they are.
That was from Mo Better Blues, Spike Lee movie.
That's
Mo
it.
Better Blues.
That's it. Mo Better Blues.
Yeah, it was from Mo Better Blues. If anyone haven't checked that out, watch it, man. That was the classic. That was during the run where Spike Lee was putting out classic movies after classic movies during the late 80s, early 90s. So
yes.
Yeah, Mo Better Blues is where the intro it came from.
I love that. What do you think about Mos on here? Mos Def, Double Trouble.
Oh man. This was because we already had Black Star, and then Mos Def Black on Both Sides was getting ready to come out.
Mm-hmm.
This joint, man, Mos Def, he was so perfect. That whole Soul Aquarium was just, man, I wish we could have really, really saw the potential of them, like the type of music they was going to be making, man, with JD and Mos Def and Common, D'Angelo and all them. But yeah, Mos Def, I thought, again, just like Illadelph Halflife, I felt like the features on this album, from Eve to Common to Beanie Siegel, Mos Def, you know what I'm saying? Like, I think everyone, Lady B, on Without a Doubt, I thought everyone did their thing, man. Like, Mos Def was definitely smooth and crazy on that joint.
He really was. He is exactly that. The hidden gems on this one are just so, like, Double Trouble for me might be my favorite cut now. And I didn't think it would be, but I can't, when he ends, and this is getting a bit granular, a bit geeky, but he scats, when it's like finishing and he just scats, he's not even rapping. He's just like, just saying whatever at the end of it, and to just see that track out. And I was like, oh my God, just that moment.
He like zin, 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 zin. Here we go, zin, zin, zin. Like,
that is like, to me, it just sticks with me. It sticks to my ribs, man. And I was thinking back to that track, and I know Talib was supposed to be on there, so that would have been quite nice if it was a bit Black Star on there, would have been quite good. But I dug into something, and I didn't know this, but like Questlove, again, always trying to improve, always keeps going, trying to push and push and push the group. He was saying a lot of this album was a mission for him to be like seen. I know you guys respect my drumming, but I want you to respect me as a songwriter and as like a producer. And he said there was a moment where Primo, Dilla and D'Angelo were sitting there. Questlove turns up and he plays them Double Trouble. And let's just say the response was like, just, oh yeah, it's okay, it's all good. And he said, right, no. I know they're not feeling that. And he went back, and Questlove like recorded it on recorded the drums on 2-inch tape and looped them back and tweaked the EQ, did all this shit to basically make them go through even more. And I'm just thinking, imagine even sitting with Primo, Dilla and D'Angelo and any of like trying to impress them. It's almost like that's such an enormous task, because Dilla is Dilla, man. And he went for it. And another thing he said, which I never knew about Dilla, and we're doing more Dilla stuff for the Patreon, right? So I've been digging in a little bit more. And he said, Dilla is such a genius, right? That I knew I could never be him. So I'm going to try but I tried once to copy him. And Dilla had heard a song in a studio, gone away, arranged it, produced it, and remade it exactly like it off of memory. Questlove tried to do it. He said, that shit ain't happening, dog. Like, I cannot do that. And that is genius, to be able to hear something and go, yeah, leave it with me. Go and just recreate it through memory. It's just, I had to go in there with Dilla, though.
Yeah. Dilla was an alien. He was literally an alien. Like, he wasn't from this planet. He was not from this planet. He
wasn't. And there's just one moment I have to say about this album, which is another hidden gem for me, where I think if you really want to talk about how the Roots got into like their production chops, like, when now these guys are doing Illadelph, but now look what we can do. It's Act 2, man. Love of My Life with Common. That track is so sublime to me. The way it starts is so beautiful, where I'm like, damn, these kind of deep cuts should be celebrated by everyone, because they must have took so long to make this. And it's just peak production for me. And I just had to shout that one out, man, because I think it was supposed to be an interlude. That was supposed to be an interlude. And they just went, no, we're just going to make it one of the best songs I think they've ever made. It's crazy, isn't it?
I think a hidden thing for me, I think on this album that people don't talk about enough is 100% Dundee.
Oh my God.
100% Dundee, man. Like,
go in, bro.
Yeah, Black Thought and Malik B, like, what do you say? Yo, on these 73 keys of every and irony, I swear solemnly that I'll forever rock steadily. People want to know where Malik is. He right next to me, the weaponry, the secret recipe. Hard to peep this deep shit. Shows I eat with. Like, yeah, like Black Thought was going crazy on that beat.
Absolutely.
Malik B came in Militan, punk cock, ready to rock, power out in the clout. It seems all through the block. Posse don't play the cut, but what we got the shot. Like, man,
we got, mate.
Like Malik beat, man. Like like that beat had that beatbox feel to it, like boom.
Yes.
Boom, I was looking and trying to see was anyone doing a beatbox, because when you listen to that track, it's like, damn, is someone really doing a beatbox on that? And they just Black Thought and Malik B just flawless. I feel like that song that's a deep cut that's not talked about enough on Things Fall Apart. Is 100% Dundee.
100%, man. I'm absolutely with you as well. And I think like you saying there about going hardcore as well, step into the realm. When that starts, that is Mob Deep. That is Mob Deep. And then they just,
how the beat just fades in, like the beat just fades in on some like street corner back alley type shit. Yeah. You are 100% right.
Yeah, and the bars, absolutely, man. Dynamite, obviously, we talked about Jay Dilla as well there, and that's just like a wicked. I love that beat. But I know we did mention, but like, You Got Me, there's not many. It's hard, right, to compare them to anyone because they're not comparable, really. But there are not many love songs. There are not many acts that treat women like the idea of love, right, like as a real thing, especially in 90s hip hop. I find it very hard to find these. So let's just celebrate it for a second, the fact that they made this love song that when I heard it, again, the music videos, the song's meaning just switched for me when I saw the video. I saw it as a love song. Erykah Badu, I know Jill should have been on there, but singing beautifully. It's like, yeah, it's a love song. Seeing the video, and before it goes into that drum and bass bit, which I love, it's actually about him being shot and him dying, and it's a love song about surrounding death, which makes it even heavier, where you're like, fuck, it's hip hop, man. This is where it comes from as well. Like, there is tragedy to everything, and it's a tragic love song at the end of it. Oh shit, it just switched when I saw the video. I didn't think that, and this is the levels these guys were working at, man. They were like, we can do anything, and man, just this album, just crazy, mate. It's just absolutely crazy. Is there anything else on this album where you think that needs a bit of love before we move on from it?
No, I think we pretty much touched on. We touched on a lot of stuff.
We really have.
We touched on. We floated through all these albums. True.
Yeah,
You Got Me. I think, when You Got Me came out, you got to think this was a time and period where, like, in hip hop, where women wasn't really, being used in a respectable format, I guess, in hip hop. So it was always coming from a disrespectful place.
Yeah,
a little bit. So I think You Got Me was definitely a good change of pace, and I'm glad it was a joint that was like being played on radio and being played on mainstream. Like I said, they won a Grammy for that single, so that was kind of dope to see at that time, man. And like, I'm kind of with you. Even though I'm a huge Jill Scott and Erykah Badu, I don't care who would have sung it, but Jill Scott, if she wrote it, I feel like she should have been the one that sung it. But maybe she felt like, Erykah, this is you. You definitely need the voice. Some singers do that. Some singers be like, no, like, even though if you write it, they like, no, Erykah, you got the perfect voice for this. Like, you need to do this. So and Jill Scott, I remember it's been a couple times when the Roots perform it, and if she's in town, like, Jill Scott will perform the hook. She will perform the hook.
Yeah.
Oh. But like, I think You Got Me was definitely a good change of pace. For mainstream hip hop at that time that it came out, man. Like, and then seeing the video and seeing how the song makes so much sense, it's like, oh damn, like, so that's what it's about. Like, it's dope, man. But this album is
unreal. It's one of them albums, right, that you don't realize. So the way I like to listen to like my albums nowadays, maybe, is I put the tracks in order of preference, and over the years, I just realized, I think it's Ain't Saying Nothing New. that might be my favorite track on the album, though. I was like, how is that? How do I listen to that more? And it's like, it's just an amazing thing to have a cut. As a kid, I probably skipped, or I didn't really feel because I've got 100% Dundee, adrenaline, all this other stuff. And then it's like, actually, no, this track, when I'm now 40, 41, this is now my favorite track. I just find that amazing that a group can still do that. And it just transcends just music then, right? It becomes part of your life. And it's like emotional shit. It's like played at weddings and stuff like that. Like, You Got Me, I Hear It at weddings. And you're like, yeah, it's like they've definitely transcended just hip hop. They're part of popular culture now, I thought. And, there's loads of those, though, isn't there? Like, I think it's Without a Doubt. That track as well as another one. The Return of Innocence Lost. There's loads of these moments where you're like, maybe I don't rewind them, but they definitely make up the album, and it's beautiful, man. Right. So this 3-album run, as you probably know by our geeking out, is very special. For you, though, what happened to the Roots? And I know you alluded to having the best discography, but for you, your love for the Roots, them as a group, how do you think they went from here? Like, after this, where do they go to, do you think?
I still think they were, they were starting with One Neurology, they definitely started getting more experimental, because I remember that joint Seed they had that was like one of the lead singles. Amazing joint. And I can't remember the name of the artist that was singing the hook on there, because he's done some work before. Real low key guy, real low key type dude. I gotta find his name now, because now it's killing me.
I think I might actually have it as well.
Now it's killing me. I'm about to find his name. His name is Cody Chestnut.
Yes.
How the heck I forgot his name? Cody Chestnut. Like, I feel like they were definitely going a little bit more, experimental for the next few albums with One Neurology, and Tipping Point, which was their last album on the Griffin Records. Because after the Tipping Point, they signed with Def Jam and they did Game Theory, which that was the return of Malik B. He was on a few tracks on Game Theory and Rising Down album, which featured a dope verse from Saigon, I think, that don't get talked about him on Criminal, on the track Criminal with Truck North. Yeah. And Saigon had a dope feature, dope verse on that.
Good pull. Great pull.
Yeah, and then you went to How I Got Over. This was around the time when they was the mainstay on the Jimmy Fallon show. So they were getting more mainstream looks. But the thing I noticed about the Roots after Things Fall Apart was like, they were starting to get more mainstream, but I feel like they wasn't like compromising. Compromising like what we known or loved them to do. And and I think they kept it that way, even as we start seeing them on Jimmy Fallon. They're on Jimmy Fallon every night, but they still making albums like How I Got Over. And then you turn right around and make probably what a lot of people argue their top 3 favorite album in their discography, The Undone, which you tell a story backwards. You make a concept album about from the moment they got killed to, like, that shit was crazy. Like,
that's Kendrick Lamar shit. Kendrick Lamar with Damn. Like, you not telling me he's not heard the Roots do that shit. Yeah, absolutely
crazy. And I remember in your email you were saying that an artist from a non-90s artist that can be on the Roots album.
Absolutely.
Kendrick Lamar, perfect. Even though Big Crit was on that Roots Undone album.
Yeah.
Big Crit and Fonte. So, I think you forgot How I Got Over. Let's not forget the amazing verse that Blue did on How I Got Over on both songs. So you asking what non-90s hip hop artists would be on there? Yeah. Those 3 right there, 4, Kendrick, Big Crit, we heard Big Crit, Fonte, and Blue. Like, man, amazing. So
that the artists definitely still respect them, new artists. Do you think they get the respect from hip hop masses, like the fans generally? Do you think they're respected? I think they are, but I was wondering what you think.
I think they're definitely respected from the hip hop masses, even from younger people who don't really listen to the Roots like that. But when they hear the Roots, they're like, that's the hip hop band. I know of them. Like, they are highly respected. I always look at the Roots as like, I think the Roots will go down. They'll be like the Earth, Wind, and Fire of hip hop.
Nice.
Earth, Wind, and Fire. I feel like Earth, Wind, and Fire when it comes to like R&B and soul music. Like, people know they're like great. They don't get mentioned enough, but when you mention Earth, Wind, and Fire, people in the R&B and soul, they be like, oh, okay,
yeah, okay.
I feel like the Roots is gonna be like that. Like it's like, yeah, we're gonna look at them as like one of the best hip hop groups or one of the best hip hop acts in this culture, you know. But yeah, it's like, yeah. What about this group? What about this group? What about this group? Oh, what about the Roots? Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
the
of
Roots.
course.
How can we, like it's like, yeah, they're gonna be respected, well respected in the hip hop culture once it's all said and done. Like I said, I look at them as the Earth, Wind, and Fire of hip hop.
Yeah, I love that. Because as well, they go just like their music and their music videos, and they go past it, right? They transcend the music. I mean, you talk about Jimmy Fallon. You made a really good point about the fact that they've still got integrity. A lot of people could have hated them for that move. And I'm sure people did hate them. I saw some stuff. They got some hate, but, you know, it hasn't stuck. And what I love is like Black Thought's in The Deuce, like just acting, like brilliant. He's really good as well. He's not just doing it because he's a rapper. He's actually a really good actor. And you think, wow, and then he's gone on to do them projects with Salam Remy and, you know, just gone on and done and just, you know, spread his wings. And you think, yeah, like it works. Questlove did Summer of Soul, and I'm sure you've seen that, and it's like, Jesus, how talented are you, man? Like, you found this thing that it's so much heart in that film. It's like, this guy is I don't know, it's just kind of amazing. And then he does podcasts, he does like, you know, writing books, and you're like, how just they were always more than a group, right? And it's just a shame, obviously Malik B passed away so young, and you're like, I feel there's so many people like that in hip hop that could still do amazing projects. And it's not the best example, but I know you feel Boldy James, and I'm always like, how fucking good is it that a guy can just change his career, work with different people, and just have a different chapter? And I thought Malik B, even though he hadn't released something in so many years, imagine, like, he could have been that. He had the skills, if he, you know. So yeah, it's kind of like, yeah, it's just beautiful to see, but also like kind of sad. But yeah, one question I was going to end on for you though, Beezy, right, was say there is a versus, and say Roots, they get enough space on the stage for Roots.
Okay.
Who's going against them?
Who's going against the Roots in the verses? I mean, man, who is going against the Roots? Because I feel like, I mean, yeah, I would say Tribe, but I feel like Tribe and Dilla is a much more exciting matchup.
The only thing I could think of, but it just still doesn't work really because they haven't got enough music, is the Fugees. And I was like, even then doesn't work. They've only got really,
they don't have enough. They don't have enough work though. Yeah, they don't have enough work.
So there's nothing.
If you're going up against the Roots, you better have work. You gotta have work, and you better be prepared.
But who? Like Cypress Hill can't do it because they're not the same. They're not. But Cypress Hill have been around for a while. But even then, they've not done like
different sounds though.
But who has? You know, that's the Roots, right? Like, who has done 30 years? Consistency, longevity, relevance, constantly bringing bangers. You know, it's very hard. I couldn't think of anyone.
Man, that's a good question. That's really a good question. I've never even thought about who would go up against the Roots. Well, in the verses.
Maybe it's one for the listeners, man. Hit us up.
Yeah, let us know, because like I said, you know, Tribe and Daylight, like, you know, I feel like that's a more exciting verses right there between them two. Yeah, Wu-Tang, I mean, I feel like two different sounds.
Do you know what? I'm not hating that.
You're not hating Wu-Tang?
Wu-Tang Roots, they've got the work.
Yeah, they have the work. They have the material. Because anyway, in the verses, you're doing 20 versus 20. So
yeah,
Wu can definitely pull up 20 tracks, and I feel like the Roots can as well.
Oh, Beezy, where are you dropping your bets on that one? If it was Wu 20 versus Roots 20.
Oh man.
I'm so sorry.
I know I will only say Wu-Tang. I would give them the edge because they have a lot more, I guess, kind of like at the time. Mind you, this is at the time. They were definitely more mainstream than the Roots.
Time. Yeah.
In the 90s. If you just want to go completely 90s, yeah, I mean Wu-Tang, I mean, who's not singing Cream? You know what I'm saying? Who's not singing Wu-Tang Clan ain't nothing to fuck with. You know what I'm saying? You got to expand it past the 90s if the Roots want to survive that, I feel. Yeah. If we stand in the 90s, Wu-Tang definitely has the clear edge. But if you going into the 2000s, then like, all right, now Wu-Tang is looking a little shallow out there.
They're gonna want to put Apollo Kids in there, Supreme Clientele.
Yeah,
They want to pull that shit in.
Yeah, man. But like I said, if Wu only picking their 20 tracks from the 90s, you know, Roots is gonna have to get creative and figure out what 20 tracks they're gonna use. But yeah, you know, just off the 90s, I gotta go with Wu. I gotta go just off of that.
I feel you. I think that's about right.
Simple, Wu-Tang Forever, you know, Triumph.
Yeah.
Like
no, Triumph. You said Triumph.
No hits like that. Yeah, Roots don't got they don't got like a hit where it's like I said, You Got Me. It's probably the only thing where as soon as it plays, people gonna be like, oh, they're gonna know the hook. But Roots don't have that many like, you know, Wu-Tang Clan ain't like you hear that.
The anthems.
As soon as the beat drop, like you automatically know. Like maybe for me as a Roots nerd, if I hear certain tracks, I'm gonna be like, oh shit, like that's from Do You Want More? Like, you know, like I know it, but a typical, you know, people that's not really in the Roots like that, and they hear Wu-Tang, they hear that sample come in on Cream, they gonna already know. Cash rules everything. Like
it's done. It's done. Absolutely. Man, Beezy, this has been emotional, man. I've really enjoyed just sitting here, digging into this and shining. We don't need to shine light on Roots, people know them, but just to dig in, man, and just really celebrate that music, man. But before you do go, I wanted to just ask, like, tell us, how is Dead End going on? What's happening with Dead End Hip Hop? How are you guys doing at the moment? And obviously, what's coming up?
Okay. Man. Hey, look, Dead End Hip Hop, youtube.com/Dead End Hip Hop. You can just Google us. We'll be everywhere.
They really are.
Doing good, man. Patreon is still coming strong. We're getting ready to do some changes at the top of the year with our tier levels for our Patreon. So be on the lookout for that. It's gonna be nice.
Wicked.
Of course, our Fridays is coming. The new battle is. I don't know when this is recording is coming out, but the A$AP Rocky versus Schoolboy battle is gonna be the 15th, October 15th. Is coming up. We got West Side Guns, Herms 8. A side A and side B review coming up.
You're doing both sides.
We got Little Sims new album. That review is dropping pretty soon. We got that one coming up. We also recording some more reviews. We're doing another classic album review that the Patreons voted. Tomorrow we're recording it. UGK Riding Dirty, 1996 Southern Classic. So we're gonna be doing that. I'm trying to think what the other albums we're gonna review. I don't think anything right now, but I'm pretty sure people want us to talk about Luke. He's a new artist that's in Dreamville.
Okay.
He just released an album earlier this week. I know people want us to talk about that. So yeah, man, we just working, man. We got Is the Mic Still On podcast dropping every Wednesdays. I also do Dead End Gaming. I'm part of Dead End Gaming. You can catch us on twitch.tv/Dead End Gaming ATL. Playing gaming, talk about hip hop, a little bit of hip hop talk on there as well as far as gaming. So yeah, man, it's like I'm always busy. I'm always on the go.
You guys really are, man. Look how many things you just listed there. I'm like, damn, I'm struggling with this podcast. These guys are like running game, man. But I love it. And I think it's as I said to you off mic, and I've said it to you guys on the other chat that we had. As a guy who's grown up the last 10 years or so, just watching you guys go from your basketball court to a studio, to doing a Patreon, to doing this. It's beautiful, man. And it's like the reviews are on point. And you have people like Evidence hitting you up or Brother Ali. And you're like, this is the relevance, right? And they love it. And this is what I'm talking about. Like, it's just nice to know that you guys are out there doing it, man. Because, when someone drops an album, I want to check that review out, So, yeah, absolutely.
No, man, it's good. I love seeing what you're doing too, man. I'm loving seeing the growth and the people that you have on your channel and stuff, man. I think that's like amazing. Like to see that, I'm like, yo, this is so dope. Like to see the people that you have, like, I'll be like, wow, this is dope. So I hope your Patreon, it takes off and it does well. Like I said, anything to help promote it, anything for you, man, I'm there.
Big up, bro. Big up. The love is real, man. So yes, there you go, people. The Roots, Beezy absolutely smashed it out the park. And yeah, hit us up with your comments, hit us up with just hit us up on Twitter or whatever, and just let us know what you think to the Roots. And also these, if we fucked up anywhere, that, how did you not talk about, there's always someone out there, how could you not talk about this song? So I'm here for that.
Yeah, always hit us up on Twitter, man. I'm pretty active on Twitter, man. My social media is pretty much the same across the board. Beezy430.
Lovely.
Beezy 5430. So
Love that, man. Well, the door's always open, man. So anytime you want to jump on again, hit me up. And yeah, much love. I'm going to go listen to some Roots now. Absolutely, man.
All right. Yeah, man.
Wicked.
Thank you for having me, man. Appreciate you.
No, I appreciate you too, bro. Wicked. Peace, bro. Peace.